Renee and welcome back to my channel. Today I have a really fun video to share with you. It's actually a collab. I've teamed up with some of my Dessert Network friends to bring you game night themed videos. I'm gonna have the entire playlist linked in a card. You can click the little I above, or you can find the whole playlist in each individual video linked down in the description box. So when you're done watching my video, make sure to check out all of my friends' videos because they're pretty awesome. So today I'm going to show you how I made this Catan cake, or Settlers of Catan. It's a really fun board game, and this cake has a lot of awesome detail in those hexes, made with some royal icing, and it's pretty simple to make. I'm going to show you how I did it. So let's get started. I made myself a template. I had to print it on 2 pieces of paper so that it would fit my 12-inch square cake. I made a center line so I could match those up to make sure that all of the sides are even. So I just taped the pieces of paper together, both front and back, so it's held securely, and then I'm going to cut that out. Then I used that template to draw out my hexagon on a cake board and cut that out as well. And I baked 2 layers of my chocolate cake recipe, which I will link down below for you. These are stacked just so I can cut them but not filled yet. I'm going to use some buttercream and secure the cake board to the bottom of one of the cakes. Then use that as a guide to cut the cakes into the perfect hexagon shape. Once the cakes are cut to shape, I can then separate them. I flipped over the cake with the board on it, and I'm going to use that as my bottom layer. I'm going to fill that. Today I'm just using my American style buttercream. I will link that recipe down below, and I have flavored this caramel. Then I can layer the next cake on top and crumb coat as usual. I let the crumb coat chill for a bit, and now I can give my whole cake a final coating of buttercream. And then I'm going to, of course, smooth the buttercream so that my cake is nice and prepared for fondant. I'm going to cover the cake in blue fondant like the board of the Catan game board. So I have some light blue fondant and some darker blue fondant, and I'm going to marble these together to make it look like the water on the game board. And as I roll out the fondant, you can see that pretty blue marbling. Then cover the cake with that blue fondant, and we've got the start of that hexagon game board. The Catan game board also consists of hexagon-shaped land pieces. So to create those, I rolled out some sand or light tan colored fondant, and I'm going to cut out 19 pieces with my hexagon cutter. After you've cut out all 19 pieces, let these dry for a few hours to overnight so they're hard. I'm using royal icing to give these hexagon shapes their detail. I thought it would be nice for the pieces to have some texture in addition to the details. So this first one, I'm using some gold colored royal icing and then smoothing it out with a damp paintbrush. This piece is the one that represents wheat, so we're making a little shape that looks like a wheat field. Once that gold color is smoothed out, use a toothpick to trace some roads across it. The pieces aren't super detailed, so we're just trying to give the impression of the elements that are there. I'm going to use some light green royal icing and smooth that down with a damp paintbrush. You'll hear me say that a lot in this video. And then I'm going to use some brown, and these colors just give the impression of different crops that might be planted in these fields. And then I'll just make some marks so this brown area looks like a field ready to be planted. And then using some darker green, I will add just a few dots here and there so it looks like there are a few trees on this property. And that's all the detail needed, and this makes our fields for wheat or grain, and you're going to want 4 of these pieces for the game board. Next, I'll show you the design for the pasture piece, which produces wool. I'm using that light green fondant, and I'm going to coat the entire piece with that using a damp paintbrush to smooth it out. I used a toothpick to create one little road going through there just for some added detail. And then to bring some other color in, I added just a few little spots of brown and smooth those out. This will look like some dirt kind of appearing underneath the hills, and then create some texture with the green royal icing again, and just pipe some above those brown spots and then smooth them out, and this is going to look like hills on a pasture. You need 4 of these pieces for the game board as well. Next, I'm making the forest piece, which produces lumber, and this one's real easy. Just brush on a small patch of the light green fondant and use the dark green to pipe little dots all the way around this game piece. You want to maintain a little bit of a tan border, and you want to have a little bit of the green showing through, but other than that, it's just making various sized dots all over this piece. Once all of your royal icing dots are piped, let that crust just a little bit, and then go back with a toothpick to break it up, and this will create some texture so this looks like the top of trees. You're going to want to make 4 of these forest pieces. Next, I made some mountain pieces which produce ore. I started with some light green, and using a damp paintbrush, I just brushed a little thin coat around the edge of the game piece, and this brings a little bit of extra color because most of these mountains are just gray. Then I created the look of mountains by piping on some gray royal icing and using a very barely damp paintbrush to fan it out and create a lot of texture in the icing. Add more icing as needed to build up the height, and just make sure you're creating lots of texture so this looks like Rocky Mountains. I created a total of 3 little ridges, so I have 3 little mountain ranges, and then I capped the highest points of these mountains with a little bit of white royal icing that I also just fanned down to make it look like there's little snow caps. You will need a total of 3 of these mountain pieces for the game board. Then I made the hills pieces, which produce brick. So these are very rough and really easy to make. So I used brown royal icing and just piped little mounds of it here and there. Then I used my damp paintbrush to fan it out and smooth it out a little bit to make this look like some hills of dirt and clay. And then just to bring in some other color, I brought the light green and put that in the little valleys between the hills and smooth that out. It just adds a little bit of color. These might be grassy areas between the hills of brown. And you need 3 of these pieces. And finally, there is 1 desert piece, so I used some sand colored royal icing and smoothed that first all the way across the piece, and then went in and tried to create the look of sand dunes similarly to how I did the mountains, just a little bit smoother on one side. Once all of these pieces are made, you're going to let the royal icing dry completely, and then we can add them to the cake. So I started by arranging the pieces randomly without using anything to attach them. This way I could just make sure that everything was where I wanted it to and that the full collection of pieces are centered on the cake. Once I was happy with their placement on the cake, I went ahead and used some water just to attach these pieces to the fondant. Built into the game board all the way around where the land pieces go is this border of sandy colored land. So to create that, I'm using strips of the sand colored fondant and just attaching them all the way around the hexes. We're also going to need to create 9 ports. To create the ports, I added my strip of fondant for the land as usual, and then I used an X-Acto knife to cut down the middle and open up a little opening in that strip. and used a modeling tool to fan out the fondant because the ports look a little rough and rocky. Then continue around the cake, making this border and remembering to add a total of 9 ports randomly spaced. Once that border is completed along with the ports, each port will need a little boat in front of it. I used brown royal icing, just piped a little boat shape with a mast, then created a sail using some white royal icing, and of course my damp paintbrush to smooth it all out. The sides of the cake were looking a little bit plain, so I used some water and attached a black ribbon of fondant all the way around. And then used some little strips of the black fondant on the corners just to accentuate the hexagon shape. Catan has a lot of additional game pieces that you could make to make this cake really detailed, but we put so much detail into those land pieces I didn't want to cover them all up. I did create a few little roads just by making some strips of other colored fondant. Red, orange, white, or blue are typically the game pieces you would find in Catan. I also made settlements by making little tiny house shapes and some cities, which are the house shapes with a rectangle on the outside. And I'm not really attaching these. This is not exactly how you would place these pieces playing the game, but I just wanted to add a little bit more detail to show you what you could do with this cake. A key element I did leave off are the little circular number tokens that go on each hex, but like I said, I didn't want to cover up my detail, so I omitted them. And that's it. This cake was so fun to make. I loved working on all of that royal icing detail. It's sure to impress any Catan player and would make a great dessert for your next game night. Don't forget to check out the full Dessert Network game night collaboration. I have the full playlist linked down below along with each individual video. I am so excited to announce the launch of my Patreon page. I'll have a link below in the description for you, or you can just go to patreon.com/Renee Conner. Once there, you can become a patron of my channel. It's a great way to support my channel and help me be able to continue to make great content. And as a patron, you get access to special patron-only perks like early access to videos, printables of recipe and templates, and a couple of other perks. I sincerely appreciate any support you can give, and if you're unable to pledge to become a patron of my channel, I always appreciate you just watching my video, and you can support me by commenting, liking, and subscribing. Thanks for watching. Don't forget to subscribe so you don't miss new videos, and if you like this video, give it a thumbs up.